Okay, so, have you heard about this Ariana Grande that's so popular right now? Okay, so, you know, I spent that last episode talking about how pop stars used to feel like superheroes, like larger-than-life figures, and then royals showed up and all the superheroes died. And now we're in a slower, moodier era of chart pop, and no one except maybe Halsey has figured out how to turn that sound into actual stardom. Well, even then, I had to acknowledge that there was one person out there doing the pop star classic routine, being world famous, making every single release an event, and as a bonus, making some really good music.
The incredible Ariana Grande!
That person is, of course, Ariana Grande, who sometime in the past few months ascended into icon status. You could cosplay as her, you would recognize her silhouette, and that fame is reflected in her chart success. She shocked the industry by blasting out a new album just 6 months after the last one, which she was still promoting. And she fired off 3 singles from that album, one on top of the other, and they quickly became the top 3 songs in the country. Now, I've already said it, but let me repeat it. Thank You Next is one of the best singles of last year. It really is great in all the ways that only pop music can be great. The most important being that it couldn't have been made by anyone else. It builds off of Ariana's public life the same way What's Love Got to Do With It gets almost all of its power by being sung by Tina Turner. It only gets better the more I hear it. I think I might have put it too low on last year's best list. It's that good. And Ariana seems to realize that this is her moment and she's milking it for all it's worth. She is doing everything right. And since she is basically the only pop star of any real note, I am practically obligated to discuss her work. So I figure I should take a look at that second single, currently the #1 song in the country, 7 Rings. Don't know the significance of the title. I know rappers do like to make a big deal about 6 rings.
How many championships? What? 6 rings on.
6 championship rings, of course, being the number that greatest of all time Michael Jordan has, so I guess Ariana's trying to do one better. And since this song came out, it's also how many rings Tom Brady has. And you know what? 6 is less than 7, so nothing but respect for my Super Bowl champion. Well, anyway, let's get into it. Let's talk about 7 Rings. Here's what 7 Rings is.
Yeah, breakfast at Tiffany's and bottles of bubbles. Girls with tattoos who like getting in trouble.
Okay, so that's a sample of my favorite things from The Sound of Music.
Lashes and diamonds, ATM machines.
Okay, and she's buying a lot of shit. Her favorite things are a lot more expensive than Maria's.
Bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens.
Maria was a pretty boring woman. But yeah, Ariana's going all out with her purchases.
Breakfast at Tiffany's and
She's buying Breakfast at Tiffany's on Blu-ray. It's about $10.
lashes and diamonds, ATM machines.
And she's buying some ATM machines. Always nice to have to spruce up your living room.
Big deposits, my gloss is popping. You like my hair? Gee, thanks, just bought it. I want it, I got it. I want it, I got it. I want it, I got it. I want it.
Is this working for you guys? Are you guys enjoying this? Or I'll put it on Twitter. Y'all like 7 rings? No, 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 no. Yes. Okay, a few people saying yes. And yeah. Quite a few people going yeah. But also a lot of no's. So, this one does not look like it's enjoying the kind of universal acclaim that Thank You Next got. Not to stop it from being huge, but okay, yeah, it's gotten a lot of pushback. And there's one big elephant in the room that we're gonna have to talk about. Okay. So, there's this concept called cultural appropriation. It's a simple idea, but it's so broad that it's been pulled into a bunch of different contexts. And it's a very important topic to talk about. But it's the kind of important that whenever people talk about it, I kind of want to die. But here it is in just the most basic way I can explain it. Let's say you're part of your own culture. Nothing wrong with it, it's perfectly fine. But then one day you find a second culture and you decide it's great and you love it. Also not a problem. No reason you shouldn't be able to appreciate it. The problem comes when you start repackaging it for your own culture. Why? Because if you're stronger and more dominant than the culture you're borrowing from, you could end up disempowering the people who rightly deserve the credit and stealing all the benefits for yourself. Plus, if you're not respectful enough or just not smart enough to understand the culture you're using, without realizing it, you may have turned it into an insulting parody of itself and ruined everything that made it good. That's the idea, at least. Now, as a multiracial person myself, I got a lot of complicated feelings about this, which is fair, you know, it's a complex topic. Where's the line? When does appreciation become exploitative? Can you really expect culture X to have no influence on culture Y, and so on and so on? Look, I don't have all the answers. All I can tell you is it's complicated. You should try and be respectful of other cultures. Don't kidnap Santa Claus. In this case, at least, I can tell you I don't think the criticism's coming from nowhere. Like, Seven Rings struck a weird note for me, too. And if I had to identify why it didn't really feel right, well, you know what? This is as good a place to start as any. Because things play differently when you throw cultural appropriation into the equation, and there is a lot of it going on in this song. You know, listen to this.
Breakfast at Tiffany's and bottles of bubbles. Girls with tattoos who like getting in trouble.
The culture that she's appropriating from is, of course, the historically abused underclass of theater nerds, who have exclusive right to that Rodgers and Hammerstein sample. Ariana is blatantly stealing from the long-suffering drama geek community, which she has no right to do, coming from the ever-so-privileged world of television actors. She was schmoozing with network executives and wearing costumes that actually fit, while the theater kids were doing South Pacific in a half-empty auditorium with only their moms in the audience. Ariana does not understand the struggle. Although I can tell you this is definitely not the worst thing a pop star has done to the sound of music. In fact, maybe pop singers should just stay away from that musical altogether, because it doesn't ever seem to go well. Okay, being serious now.
Receipts be looking like phone numbers.
The actual reason this song is getting dinged is it struck people as kinda Iggy Azalea-ish. Okay, first off, we have to acknowledge that Ariana Grande is, in fact, white. That's actually surprisingly easy to miss, what with her ethnically ambiguous skin tone and name, but the name's Italian, Italians are white, she's white. There was a time in history where Italians were not white. That was a long time ago and not relevant to this discussion. Please don't bother me with it. Now, any white person who works in black music is walking a fine line. And because of a lot of ugly historical reasons you should already know, this is an old controversy and it seems like it'll always be with us. Where do I stand on it? I don't know. I don't think white people should just make bluegrass for the rest of eternity, but I do also want to puke every time the latest hip-hop slang comes out of Katy Perry's mouth. And since Seven Rings is very hip-hop, Ariana has become just the latest to get called out for it.
Black card is my business card, the way it be setting the tone for me.
And there's already one rapper, Princess Nokia, who claims that Ariana jacked her style specifically. And there's some debate whether it was even hers originally or from someone else. Soulja Boy is another name that's been tossed out there as the originator. And that's before you get into the video, where it looks like she's ripping off the pink trap house that 2 Chainz made famous, which, that's a whole other thing. Yeesh. I don't know about any of that, but when I heard Seven Rings, I was like, this is a Beyonce song.
Wake up, post up.
It sounds exactly like something Beyonce would make. Or maybe even Destiny's Child would have made 20 years ago. And, well, is anything wrong with that exactly? Obviously, Beyonce has gotten very political lately and icon to black women specifically, but not just them. Expecting any pop singer to not be influenced by someone as big and important as Beyonce, how could you avoid it? Surely, Beyonce belongs to the world now. Yeah, but... Okay, let me preface this first. I would be happy to hear a song like Seven Rings from nobody ever again. A song about buying fancy things and looking good does nothing for me, because I never look good, and I genuinely hate shopping and buying things. I hoard my money like a dragon. If all my forks went missing, I would just eat soup for the rest of my life. So the standard flex of buying fancy cars or beauty products and jewelry in this case, I don't relate. And I don't even really like the sound of music, so something like this was never going to work for me. But in a lot of cases, things like this aren't for me. And yes, who it is for matters, and it absolutely makes a difference who sings it. I don't know if you know anything about Beyonce's background. She did not ever have to worry where her next meal was coming from. But her being successful and fabulous Queen Bee is still extremely inspiring just because she's doing it as a black woman in America. And I made this same point with I Like It.
I'm the district in the chain.
Cardi B's not doing anything in this song but enjoying various luxuries and some decent ethnic food.
Eating halal.
But that song symbolically meant a lot more than that. It's aspirational and inspirational to the people who need it most. And that does make the song more enjoyable.
Give me the loot.
Ariana doesn't have that subtext, so it just sounds like she's singing to herself. And I know some people are gonna say, well, hold on. Cardi and Beyonce spend on themselves and indulge in rampant materialism, and just because of who they are, they get to have it mean something and Ariana doesn't? That's not fair. Correct. The world is not fair. You noticed. I hate getting preachy like this, but there's a lot of unfairnesses in the world that you should probably get angry at first, especially since that's the whole reason she's perceived differently. I mean, she's got all these signifiers from the typical hip-hop rags to riches story, but she doesn't get what they signify. It's basically, I'm on a boat. I'm on a boat! I'm on a boat! Seriously, the joke of that song is that they have hip-hop's ultimate symbol of the rise from the bottom. Take a good hard look at the motherfucking boat! Except it doesn't symbolize anything, it's just literally a boat. Tell me that's not what's going on in Seven Rings. But there is one line in particular that really pushed people's buttons.
You like my hair? Gee, thanks. Just bought it.
Yeah. Okay, I don't feel equipped to tackle a topic as loaded as a woman's hair, so I'm just gonna walk you through my very dim and uninformed thought processes when I heard that line.
You like my hair? Gee, thanks. Just bought it.
Okay, so she's bragging about her hair extensions. Wow, that makes me uncomfortable. Wait, why?
You like my hair?
Well, I guess because weaves are more associated with black women. But not like exclusively, they're not like cornrows. Ariana uses hair extensions, she's talked about it a lot. And I don't think people look at her hair and think she's trying to look black. Yeah, but just the way she says it.
Gee, thanks. Just bought it.
Like, she's defiant about it. Like, she's shocking you by bragging about it. Like, yeah, my hair is a weave and I'm not ashamed of it. But why would she be? She's white. And as I well know from watching reruns of Martin, it is black women who are stigmatized for not having natural hair, not white women. I don't think, at least. I'll watch some Friends reruns and see if it comes up, but I'm pretty sure that's not a thing. So, what does Ariana think she's saying? Well, she's already kind of apologized for it, saying, you know, she was just trying to uplift all women by destigmatizing fake hair, and you know what, maybe it didn't come off. Honestly, I can see that. I bet a lot of people took it exactly how it was intended. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of black girls are singing that line next time they go to the salon. But to other people, it just sounded like a white girl flexing her white privilege, getting away with things that black women can't. And I think that's a fair response too, because that's what the entire song sounds like.
I want it, I got it. I want it, I got it.
I want it, I got it. That's the song. Just a mean rich girl shoving her unearned wealth in your face. I mean, there's no excuse for this.
Whoever said money can solve your problems must not have had enough money to solve them.
I used to think that becoming rich and becoming famous would make me happy. Boy, was I right.
Kiss my ass!
Whoever said
You're right. I don't have that kind of cash because I have student loans, you entitled brat. Thanks for the reminder. You know what? I was definitely making this too much a race thing. Now I gotta talk about Cardi B standing up and being an inspiration, but you know who was also a working class Latina from the Bronx?
don't be fooled by the rocks that I got. I'm still Jenny from the block.
Yeah, Jennifer goddamn Lopez. And it wasn't a secret. She talked about it a lot. And all that talk about being real and from the block, it made her an inspiring role model to absolutely no one somehow. It just felt like no one liked her. And her bragging up her roots just made it worse. Like it was a joke we were all in on. Like, I'm real. Get it? It's funny because it's so not true. That's how it came across because she didn't do a thing to actually seem like a local girl made good. So her glamour felt really ungenerous, as opposed to Beyonce, who's always given it up for her ladies. And ungenerous is how I would describe Seven Rings also. Like there's some allusions in there to the famous hardships and heartbreaks she suffered.
Been through some bad shit, I should be a savage. Who would've thought it turned me to a savage?
And the 7 rings, apparently after her broken engagement, she bought rings for her friends.
I'm matching diamonds for 6 of my bitches.
And there's some talk in there about learning to be strong and independent.
Wearing no ring, but ain't gon' be no misses.
But the song doesn't feel like it's about any of that. It's not about friendship or independence or overcoming hard times or even looking good or being successful. It's just about being rich.
Think we tell therapy my no addiction.
It's a song about Ariana being perfect. And even if the lyrics were more focused on those other things, it wouldn't matter, because the song's entire vibe is telling a different story. Listen to the beat.
Stop watching.
It's perfect. It's flawless. It's immaculate. It's airtight. It's shrink-wrapped. It's soulless. It's cold and there's no air and no space in it because the oxygen belongs to Ariana only. You don't get to breathe. Someone asked me why I don't get this bother when Post Malone, who is also white, raps about his fancy jewelry. Because he's a sad boy who looks like shit. What else has he got? Let him have this. But the aesthetics of 7 Rings is so tight and controlled, it just feels like bullying. To me, at least. For a lot of people, Ariana's flawless opulence is quite attractive and inspirational. That's why it's a #1 hit. I do admit, I see it too. I kind of admire it for how confident and put together it is. The same way I admire how a xenomorph is perfectly designed to be repulsive and kill people, but that doesn't mean I want one around. This song is just no fun. And it feels grotesque to release this at a time when it seems like the rich are less popular than ever. And all the racial stuff, I don't know. You ever see something that's not offensive exactly, but it's like constantly dancing right up to the line? So the problem is more that it's distracting than anything else? That's where I am. It's just awkward. And some people have told me it plays better on the album, like her material sounds less straightforward and more ironic in the face of all the other songs about her emotional depths. And my response to that is, you know, maybe it plays better because the rest of the album is good, and songs sound better when they're around better songs. When Lorde released Royals, some hip-hop fans and artists blasted back at her for not getting how symbolically meaningful it is for these guys to rap about their come-up, but Royals doesn't say rap songs are like this. She said every song, because that's what it was like at the time. Thank You Next reminded me everything I love about pop, but 7 Rings is reminding me why it had to be destroyed. At its best, it was like a giant party that everyone was invited to. At its worst, it sounded like 7 Rings, VIP only. You can keep it. I didn't want a ring anyway.